Hello everyone, my name's Duncan White. I'm the group editor at the International Fire and Safety Journal. I'm delighted to be here at FRI in Kansas City. And more importantly, I'm delighted to be joined by Jim Foran. Jim, good morning, my friend.
Good morning to you. Good to see you again, Duncan.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Jim and I have known each other for about 8 years now when Jim and I spoke about PVStop in the early days. And it was amazing how people originally looked at PVStop and thought that Jim was somewhat crazy, but we're 8 years down the line and the crazy people are the ones that aren't using PVStop. Jim, for those that don't know too much about PVStop, give us a little bit of history.
Okay, so PVStop was founded in Australia, myself and my co-founder Luke Williams. The whole concept came when Luke, who's been a solar installer and designer for over 40 years, actually got electrocuted on the roof and fell off. And that led him to the idea that if this can happen to someone with this much experience, it can happen to anybody. And as I said, that was more than 10 years ago now. He could see that the world was going to keep adopting more and more solar and could see this as an emerging issue, not just for firefighters and first responders, but also for communities at large. I met Luke in the early days and from there went on to become a solar installer myself. Went back to school, got my fire engineering qualifications, and 8 years later, here we are in Kansas City. But in essence, PVStop is a simple solution to a complicated problem. It is the only product or accredited product that switches off solar panels at the source of power production, the solar panel itself. Light is the source of power, so remove the light, remove the power, mitigate the problem. And that's what PVStop does. It sprays onto solar panels like a black liquid tarpaulin, blocks the light, stops the power. A very simple solution to a complicated problem.
Jim, I've learned something. I didn't realize you went back to school and got your engineering degree. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The most effective things in the world of firefighting, fire protection, fire suppression is if it says what it does on the tin and it does that in reality. It's all about common sense. And I think what we've got here is a product that, as Jim said, cuts the source of light off, which immediately cuts off the electricity. Jim, I know that you've been traveling the world. We see each other at lots of different shows, but you're seeing some success now in large numbers in relation to fire departments taking the product.
Absolutely. So although we're an Australian innovation, funnily enough, the first major fire department to adopt the product was the London Fire Brigade. So I've got a very soft spot for my friends over in the UK. But now, from that foundation of LFB, we've rolled out, we're in 50% of the fire brigades in the UK, and we'll probably have the rest by the end of the year. But we're not just restricted to there. We're now getting adoption across Europe. In Southeast Asia, the Singapore Civil Defence now have PVStop on all first response vehicles. And now we're doing our major launch here in the US. We did a bit of a trial pre-COVID with the New York Fire Department, FDNY. They love the product. They've now used it in anger. And as Duncan says, it does exactly what it says on the tin. They've now adopted it. And from the foundation of having the largest fire department in the US behind us, we're now here in Kansas City, educating the fire chiefs from around the country and growing very quickly. So yeah, exciting times for me and for PVStop.
Certainly, and I think the credentials that PVStop can now discuss in relation to the largest fire and rescue service in the UK in London, the largest fire and rescue service in FDNY in America. Singapore Civil Defence are also leaders in their field also. So in relation to the processes that you've had to go through to meet the needs of those departments, I think that says a lot about the credibility of the product. It takes a lot. Being an Englishman talking in Australia, I know, having worked in the fire and rescue service, how difficult it is to get products in and used on a daily basis. And for PVStop to have done that from concept to reality in 8 years is a credit. Jim, I wish you all the best.
Thank you,
I look
Duncan.
forward to our continued discussions around the world wherever we see each other. and more importantly, I wish PVStop all the best. I've been Duncan
Thank you.
White, and this is Jim Foran from PVStop.
Thank you.